When Shedeur Sanders slipped to the fifth round in the NFL draft, analysts spun it as a consequence of media distractions and character concerns. But behind those coded critiques lies a more uncomfortable truth: assumptions about who he is, where he comes from, and what he represents. Shedeur's actual record, impressive stats, undeniable leadership, football IQ, was pushed aside, eclipsed by narratives that had little to do with the game itself. He didn't just fall in the draft. He was pulled down by decades of stereotypes, a media echo chamber, and the towering presence of his father, Deion Sanders.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
What makes Shedeur's journey so powerful is his refusal to play a character built for him by the media. Rather than retreat or rebrand, he's leaning into his identity, rebuilding his reputation not through PR campaigns, but through grind and integrity. In Cleveland, he's writing a new narrative: one rep, one game, one season at a time. It's a fight for honest recognition in a league that still struggles to separate confidence from cockiness and family legacy from personal worth. You knew the minute Shedeur Sanders got drafted the takes were going to get weird. But fifth round? After everything he did in college? After showing up, showing out, and carrying Colorado like it was a one-man show? Suddenly, the conversation wasn't about his arm strength, his IQ, or his leadership. No, it became all about who his dad is. Let's get one thing straight: this isn't just about football. This is about perception. This is about legacy. This is about what happens when your last name makes certain people uncomfortable, especially when that last name is Sanders and the first name is Deion. From the moment Shedeur stepped on the field, it was clear he had game. But the whispers started early. Is he legit, or is he just riding coattails? Is he working hard, or is this another case of nepotism? No matter how many yards he threw or how composed he was under pressure, the shadow of his father's bravado followed him like a ghost. And here's where things got ugly. Despite his performance, his draft stock mysteriously started to slide. Analysts were suddenly concerned about his attitude. Scouts murmured about character questions. That phrase again, so vague, so familiar. We've heard it before. It's never about facts. It's about coded language. And it wasn't just a slide, it was a freefall. Fifth round. For a quarterback with his numbers, his poise, and his control under pressure? That's not football analysis. That's narrative control. Meanwhile, the league loves to preach the gospel of underdogs. The rags to riches stories, the no-names who grind their way up. But Shedeur? Because of who his father is, he didn't get that storyline. He didn't get the benefit of the doubt. His confidence wasn't seen as resilience, it was arrogance. His swagger? A problem. Not inspiring, not galvanizing. Just too much. You could practically hear the old-school football guys clutching their pearls. He's on social media too much, they said. Too many watches, too much flash, not enough grit. Funny how that critique always seems to land harder on confident black quarterbacks, isn't it? And then came Rex Ryan. Of course it was Rex. The same Rex Ryan who made his name off bravado, who lived for the spotlight, who never met a hot take he didn't like. He went on TV and dismissed Shedeur's entire game like it was an afterthought. Didn't matter that Shedeur had carried himself like a professional. Didn't matter that he had worked for it. Rex labeled him entitled, just another kid handed everything. But Shedeur didn't sit back and take that. He clapped back, and not with drama but with questions. Real questions. Why is it okay for coaches and pundits to build entire careers on ego, but when a player like him is confident, it's a red flag? Why is it that when his father, yes, Deion, sets him up to succeed it's called nepotism, but when executives or coaches hire their kids nobody blinks? That's the part people don't want to talk about. Because Shedeur is far from the only second-generation athlete out here. But the outrage? Selective. It's different when the spotlighted family is loud, unapologetically black, and successful. Suddenly it's too much. Suddenly the family name is a burden instead of a badge. And still, Shedeur kept showing up. Kept grinding in Cleveland. No scandal. No distractions. Just work. He's been putting in the time, keeping his head down, staying focused. And for what? To be dragged for being confident? For not shrinking himself to fit into the league's outdated idea of humility? There's a generational disconnect at play here. Older fans, older analysts, they see Shedeur and think of Deion. They can't separate the two. But Shedeur isn't trying to be his dad. He's trying to be himself. He doesn't owe the NFL some manufactured version of humility. He's earned his confidence. But the system still wants to put him in a box, and when he resists, they label it a problem. Let's talk about the character issues people keep bringing up. Where's the evidence? Where's the pattern of bad behavior? It doesn't exist. It's all vibes and no receipts. It's media spin. The NFL has a long history of letting perception shape reality, especially for black quarterbacks who don't conform. And when that perception starts at entitled or arrogant, it's almost impossible to shake. This isn't just a football story. It's a case study in how the league handles difference, how it polices swagger, how it mistrusts legacy when that legacy doesn't fit neatly into its preferred narratives. If Shedeur were the quiet, humble son of a former coach, he's a top 3 pick. But because he's Dion's son, because he dares to speak up, because he doesn't downplay who he is, he gets punished. And yet, through all of it, Shedeur has stayed focused on what matters. He's doing the work. He's involved in the community. He's not chasing headlines, he's chasing growth. There's a quiet kind of power in that. He doesn't need to over-explain himself because the truth is right there in how he moves. Steady, grounded, intentional. There's a deeper irony here. The NFL loves to hold up players who rise above, who beat the odds, who overcome obstacles. But when Shedeur tries to do exactly that, when he tries to climb out from under the weight of expectation and stereotype, he gets flattened by the same system that claims to celebrate resilience. It's almost poetic. The league that fetishizes toughness can't seem to handle Shedeur's type of strength. The strength to stand tall in the face of disrespect. The strength to call out unfairness without theatrics. The strength to be himself even when it costs him. And that's the core of all this. Shedeur Sanders is doing everything right, but because of who he is, how he talks, and where he comes from, it's still not enough for some people. But he's not asking for handouts. He's asking for fairness. He's demanding to be seen for him, not just as Dion's son, not just as another confident kid, but as the athlete he is. The leader. The worker. The quarterback. And let's not forget he can play. The film doesn't lie. The throws are clean, the decision-making is sharp, the leadership is real. If his last name were different, the media would be drooling over him. Instead, they're searching for cracks in the armor. The NFL has a paradox. It wants authenticity, but only the kind that plays well in press conferences. It wants passion, but not too much. It wants confidence, but not from him. And in that paradox, Shedeur has become both the villain and the underdog depending on who you ask. But here's the twist, he's okay with that. Because his goal isn't approval. It's longevity. Legacy. Not the one his father built, but the one he's carving out, day by day in plain sight. And eventually the noise will fade. The takes will cool. And all that'll be left is what Shedeur does on the field. Until then, he's watching. Listening. Remembering who said what, who doubted him, who tried to turn his father's legacy into his burden. And when it's time, he'll respond the only way that matters. In the end zone, not the interview. Let's be honest. The NFL has a long way to go in learning how to handle players like Shedeur. But whether the league evolves or not, he's going to keep showing up. Because resilience isn't just about taking hits. It's about choosing to stand tall, even when the crowd boos louder than they cheer. If you're here for players who speak their truth, who challenge the system, and who refuse to be boxed in by old narratives, hit that like button. Drop a comment with your take on the Shedeur situation, and if you're not already, make sure to subscribe for more stories like this. Because the chaos isn't slowing down anytime soon. Once the draft dust settled and Shedeur officially landed in Cleveland, the conversation should have shifted to football. It should have been about fit, about how his play style matches the Browns' offense, or how he can develop under the current coaching staff. But no, people were still stuck on the narrative. Not his throws, not his footwork, just his father, his flash, and his social media presence. That's the thing about perception. Once the media builds a box for you, it's almost impossible to break out of it, especially when the box was built long before you even walked into the room. Shedeur wasn't just contending with NFL expectations. He was fighting an entire ecosystem of skepticism. Every tweet, every interview clip, every sideline moment, scrutinized. And what makes it worse? The inconsistency. Let's break that down. When a scrappy quarterback with a backstory from a small town gets drafted late, the NFL spins it as a feel-good story. They throw around words like grit, determination, and intangibles. But when it's Shedeur, suddenly it's he talks too much, or he needs to stay humble, or the worst one, he hasn't earned it yet. How does that work? What exactly hasn't he earned? This is a player who faced an unreal amount of pressure at Colorado. The spotlight wasn't just on him, it was blinding. He didn't fold. He didn't choke. He showed up game after game with a battered O-line and media chaos swirling around him. And yet, nothing was ever enough. The critics just kept moving the goalposts. And they're still moving them. Now that he's in the league, the narrative has morphed again. Now it's, let's see if he can take being a backup. Or, will he accept not being the star? Translation, will he behave? Will he stay quiet? Will he fit the mold? Because that's what they really want. And here's the part that doesn't get enough attention. The way the NFL system silently punishes players for simply being themselves. Shedeur isn't loud because he wants attention. He's loud because he comes from a world where confidence was survival. Where walking into a room and commanding respect wasn't optional, it was the bare minimum. Deion Sanders didn't raise a passive player. He raised a competitor. And yet, that same competitive fire, the thing that built careers for so many quarterbacks before him, is being weaponized against Shedeur. It's not just ironic, it's hypocritical. And let's not forget, this is the same league that fawns over swagger when it's convenient. When Joe Burrow showed up with diamonds and cigars, he was called cool. When Baker Mayfield planted a flag on a rival's field, it was passion. But Shedeur flashes a watch and now it's an issue? Now he's unprofessional? There's a double standard here. One that's loud, ugly, and persistent. And it's exhausting. For Shedeur, every move now comes with a subtext. Prove you belong. Not just with your play, but with your personality, your media presence, your compliance. Keep your head down, don't make noise, be thankful. But Shedeur didn't come here to fit in, he came to succeed. On his own terms. And the media? They're starting to realize they can't control him. This latest exchange with Rex Ryan wasn't just a personal clapback, it was a broader rejection of the way these narratives are built. Shedeur wasn't begging for validation. He was demanding accountability. Asking why, exactly, a man with Rex's track record felt so comfortable tearing down a 22-year-old kid just trying to build his career. The answer? It's simple, because people like Rex don't expect pushback. They expect young players to eat it, to take the criticism and smile through it. But Shedeur isn't built that way. He's not playing the humble prodigy just to make older men feel comfortable. And honestly, he shouldn't have to. This moment, this standoff with Rex, is bigger than just one interview or one insult. It's symbolic of the generational divide happening in real time. The league is filled with guys who grew up in a world where the media owned the narrative. But Gen Z athletes? They're flipping the script. They've got their own platforms, their own voice, and they're not afraid to use it. Shedeur's not waiting around for a network to rebrand him. He is the brand. That scares people. It challenges the old order. It throws a wrench into the tidy formula of how young athletes are supposed to behave, speak, and rise through the ranks. And rather than adapt, the old guard lashes out. But here's the twist, it's not working. Because despite the critics, despite the draft slide, and despite the endless backhanded comments, Shedeur's already winning in the one area that matters, relevance. People are talking. People are watching. Not because of controversy, but because of potential. His name stays in the conversation not out of scandal, but because of impact. And now, he's got something even more powerful than hype. He's got something to prove. Not in a petty, revenge-driven way, but in the most grounded, unstoppable way possible. The kind of motivation that keeps you training when no one's watching. The kind of motivation that turns disrespect into fuel. And the league is watching too. Make no mistake, they see the resilience. They see how Shedeur handles the pressure. How he moves past the noise. How he doesn't crack when the media piles on. That matters. Quietly, behind closed doors, teams are noticing. Because talent always finds a way. And when Shedeur finally gets the chance to step into a starting role, whether it's next season or the one after, that's when everything changes. That's when all the fake narratives get exposed. That's when people have to reckon with the fact that he was always more than just Deion's son. He was a quarterback, a leader, a playmaker. And when that moment comes, oh, it's going to be poetic. Every camera will be there. Every critic will be on standby. And when he steps onto that field and delivers, because he will, it won't just be a personal win. It'll be a cultural one. A moment of clarity in a league that still struggles to embrace difference, confidence, and unapologetic identity. Because in the end, that's what Shedeur's journey is really about. Not just proving himself to coaches and scouts, but proving to the entire system that authenticity is not a liability. That you don't have to shrink yourself to rise. That confidence isn't the opposite of humility, it's the foundation of greatness. So let them doubt. Let them talk. Let the Rex Ryans of the world keep throwing stones from their glass houses. Because Shedeur's not playing their game. He's building his own. If you thought Shedeur Sanders' story peaked with the draft day drama and his clapback at Rex Ryan, think again. That was just the setup. What's unfolding now is the slow, deliberate dismantling of every lazy narrative the NFL and its media machine tried to box him into. Because here's what they didn't count on: Shedeur's patience. Yeah, the flash gets the attention. The watches, the suits, the clips on social. But behind all that is a young quarterback who's dangerously calculated. Not reckless. Not emotional. Calculated. That's the part that's throwing them off. He's not just playing the long game, he is the long game. Let's get real for a second. Most players coming into the league from high-profile families either buckle under the pressure or bend themselves into something safer, quieter, more marketable. But Shedeur? He didn't dim his light. He didn't apologize for who he is. He walked into the NFL room just as loud, just as proud, and just as confident as he was the day he walked into Boulder. And the reaction? Predictable. Oh, he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's trying to be a brand before being a player. He should let his play do the talking. But that's the trick. They're not listening when he does. Because when you strip away the social media clips, when you turn off the hot takes and you actually watch the tape, the throws are there. The poise is there. The clock management, the reads, the accuracy under pressure, check, check, check. And yet we're still here. Still talking about character. Still talking about humility. Still talking about whether he deserves the spotlight. It's exhausting. And not just for Shedeur, but for every young black athlete who's expected to be twice as humble, twice as apologetic, and twice as quiet just to be seen as professional. This isn't just about one player. This is about a pattern. The NFL has this very particular mold for what a quarterback is supposed to look like, on the field, off the field, in front of the mic. It's a mold built decades ago and defended by generations of gatekeepers. So when someone like Shedeur walks in with presence and says, "I'm here, I belong, and I'm not downplaying it for you," the system panics. It doesn't know what to do with that. And the irony? That same system will turn around and celebrate the exact same traits in other players, as long as they play it right. Take a quarterback from a quiet college town who smiles for the cameras, throws some cliches in a press conference, and wears a pastel suit on draft night? Boom. Instant franchise material. But a kid raised by Deion Sanders, who dares to wear his legacy like armor instead of hiding it under the rug. Now it's a problem. It's almost comical if it wasn't so tired. And yet, even with all of this pressure, Shedeur's focus hasn't wavered. He's in Cleveland now, and while the media's still spinning stories, he's busy working. Not for clicks. Not for headlines. For wins. For growth. For the moment he gets to look the league in the eye and say, "You were wrong." He's not begging for that moment. He's building toward it. You want to talk about mental toughness? How about staying calm while the world questions whether you earned your way in? How about carrying your father's name while trying to make your own? How about being 22 and having every move dissected like you're already a bust before you've even played a snap? That's pressure. And Shedeur? He wears it like it's tailored. Because here's the part no one talks about. Shedeur wants the pressure. He's not running from expectations, he's inviting them in. That's why he answered Rex Ryan the way he did. Not with anger. With clarity. With conviction. With facts. Because he knows that if you let someone else write your story, you lose control of your legacy. And he's not here to be a supporting character in someone else's hot take. He's here to be the main event. And let's be honest, he already is. Even off the field, he's setting a new tone. One where players reclaim their image before it's distorted by sports media's outdated formula. One where sons of legends don't have to pretend to be anything less than great just to make everyone else comfortable. You know what's wild? The amount of pressure Shedeur faces just to be normal. Think about that. He throws for thousands of yards? Cool, but let's talk about his dad. He shows leadership under fire? That's fine, but how flashy was his post-game outfit? He's never just Shedeur. He's always Deion's son, social media QB, the guy with the watch. Every part of his identity is put under a microscope, while his actual talent is left sitting on the sidelines. And yet he keeps showing up. He shows up to workouts. He shows up for his team. He shows up for the kids in his community who see him, not as a shadow of someone else, but as a blueprint for how to exist unapologetically in a space that tries to shrink you. That's why the nepotism talk rings so hollow. Because what are we really mad at? That Deion set his son up for success? That he built a platform, a pipeline, a legacy, and then used it to elevate the next generation? We call that networking in every other industry. In Hollywood, in Wall Street, in tech, people build empires for their kids. But when it happens in sports, And when it happens in a black family, suddenly it's controversial. That's not criticism. That's bias. And Shedeur? He sees it. He knows exactly what's happening. And he's not internalizing it, he's using it. You can feel it in the way he talks now. There's a quiet intensity. Less to prove, more to build. The flashy confidence is still there, but now it's layered with experience. With clarity. With purpose. And don't be surprised when that starts translating to the field. Don't be shocked when the league stops pretending he's just Dion's kid and starts realizing he's that guy. Because he will get his moment. And when it comes, it won't be because the media decided he was worthy. It won't be because the draft analysts changed their minds. It'll be because Shedeur never stopped being exactly who he said he was. Talented, resilient, focused, and yes, ready. So let this be a reminder to every critic, every analyst, every loudmouth former coach who thought they could define him with a headline or a soundbite. Shedeur Sanders isn't here to win your approval. He's here to win. Period. The same people who tried to downplay Shedeur's potential? They're going to be the first ones claiming they always knew he had it in him when he starts lighting it up on Sundays. That's how the cycle works. First they doubt you. Then they dissect you. Then, when you prove them wrong, they pivot to praise like nothing ever happened. And Shedeur? He knows that game inside and out. He's watched it play out with his dad. He's watched it happen to countless players who don't fit the NFL's mold of the safe quarterback. He's not surprised. He's just prepared. Because what they didn't understand is that this isn't a phase, it's a plan. The way he carries himself, the way he speaks up, the way he doesn't bend under media pressure, that's all intentional. Not rebellious. Not reckless. Intentional. This is a guy who knows exactly what he's doing, and he's not asking anyone for permission. And yet, the league still has this outdated belief that confidence has to be earned quietly. That swagger has to come after the success, not before. But Shedeur's entire existence challenges that. He walks in like he belongs because he does. And whether the fifth-round label follows him or not, it won't define him. Let's just say it, fifth-round quarterbacks don't carry themselves like this. Fifth-round quarterbacks don't have this much attention, this much pressure, and still move with the composure of a vet. But Shedeur isn't just any fifth-round pick. And this isn't just another draft story. This is a cultural reset. He's not just playing for stats or for a paycheck, he's playing for narrative correction. For every kid who's been told to tone it down. For every black quarterback who's been told to smile more, speak less, and just be grateful for the shot. And he's doing it with a level of grace and discipline that's honestly wild for someone his age. So no, he's not backing down. He's not shrinking. He's not letting anyone turn this moment into a cautionary tale. Because this is not a fall from grace story. This is the origin story of a quarterback who refused to be flattened by the weight of perception. And when Shedeur Sanders finally silences the noise, not with words but with wins, there won't be a single doubt left. Only receipts. If you're riding with Shedeur, hit that like button. Drop a comment and let us know how you think the NFL's treatment of legacy players needs to evolve. And of course, subscribe for more breakdowns of the drama, the narratives, and the comebacks that keep this league spinning. This is just the beginning.